Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of All in All with Alex podcast. I'm your host, of course, Alex. Today, we have a very special guest. I'm going to let him introduce himself, talk about himself for just a quick second, and then we're going to jump straight into it.
Well, my name is Charlie Thompson. I'm from Huntsville, Alabama. I grew up rough neighborhood. I went through a lot of that. Being the smart kid in the neighborhood was really kind of weird because you get that mixture of being being the regular guy and yet you're smart, and you know how smart kids can kind of get picked on. But so you kind of learn to do that, and you move on. Of all the people in my field in high school and whatnot, and what I was doing, I ended up going to college, got biology and chemistry degrees from UAB and then UAH. Then after some years of working, trying to help my mom out of debt, some issues happened, and we lost the house. And after a while, I ended up moving to Virginia, living with a friend. And I was introduced. I grew up in a military family, but now I was introduced to another side with the Navy because my friend was in there, and everything that happened there. I moved back down to where I started in Huntsville, and I bought me a house, and then I eventually ran for Congress. I lost. But even then, when I lost, the lady that beat me actually used me as her campaign manager because of the talent that I showed to that. And I do plan on running again because if I get to Congress, I swear this country will change immediately.
Yeah. Well, that's a pretty interesting story, man. I'm glad we're gonna have opportunity to dive into it. Especially, it's rare that you find an Alabama native with the, story and background that you have, as well. Most people, that I have on the podcast, they're from North Carolina, or they're from California, or they're from, they're from all over the U.S. So to have somebody that's, right here in Alabama, that's definitely good, man. So, can you give a little bit more insight on, any challenges that you faced growing up in Southwest Huntsville?
Yeah. I grew up. I was a hood kid. There's a reason. The Southwest has had a drug problem. It had the red light district was a street over from me. But it's interesting because it started out, since it was so close to a military base, that it was military families. So all these 60 and 70-year-old men had families, but then everywhere around it was nothing but drug gangs. So I kind of got to hear all these old conservative men who lived in a different time. And then I also had the fact that I was surrounded by a drug culture, a gang culture, a street culture. And, the first time I sold anything to get somebody high was 9 years old. Somebody, came to my house who was a friend of mine and convinced me to sell him paint thinner. I really wasn't doing it because it's not my property. I try to be ethical. That's the thing. I've always tried to be an ethical person, no matter what. It was my grandfather, so I wasn't selling it. But he kept upping the price until he basically gave me everything he had just to get high off a small amount. I learned right then, hey, you don't sell drugs sell themselves. That was kind of, as a kid, 9 years old, you think like I do, you're very, cut and dry. What's the best thing to do to get the next step? It was on the table. So, I ended up in a middle school, inner city middle school, a lot of opportunity. So I made a lot of connections, and, through my middle ages there, through teenage years, I was always moving something or working behind the scenes, with partners, and I would be silent partners on deals and things. It became a thing, and through until I got kicked out basically when I went to college because all the other members of the business I was in at the time were like, we've already called everybody our friends in Birmingham. You're not touching anything. You're the only one of us that have the ability to get a college scholarship. You're the only one that has the ability to get to school, So I kind of got put out of the drum game when I went to college. I have a lot of respect for those guys that they thought that much of me, that to get me away from the bad life, to say, hey man, you've got an opportunity we wish we had.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's definitely good. I mean, it's good that they seen that in you. Even if you may have not seen it in yourself, because sometimes when you're so involved in something, you're deep in it. You don't really sometimes realize certain things that other people see in you that that you might have seen. So, it's good that they seen that, and then they not necessarily pushed you away, but they kind of pushed you to say, hey, look, go do this. It's going to be better than what we're doing right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So how do your experiences, with let's say financial hardship and losing your family home shape your perspective on life itself?
It just showed you that whatever you do, you need to make sure you have a plan and sticking to it. You need to make sure that you have the economic situation that you're going to need to survive. You can't let something sidetrack that, even just a little bit. Like, as I said, I grew up in this house. It was lost when I was like, in my mid-20s. And I was there. I'd come back from school to try to help my mom keep the house. And even with that, it was just, she had a bad habit of spending. She had some things she shouldn't have been doing. Wasn't always the most legal person. She went to jail once for stealing from Walmart. She worked there while she did it. It is what it is. My mother was, she was a good mother, but she was opportunistic. If she found a way to make a buck or scam a buck, she did it. Yeah. So basically, I always had to look over my shoulder at my own mother. Once I realized what type of person she was, Yeah. So I hated losing the house. I hated losing the property that belonged to my grandfather, because I respected the hell out of him, and I loved my mother to death. And I hate to see my mom be out of a house and not have anywhere to go. And I had a place to go because I ended up moving in with a lady I had started seeing. But just the way everything goes, it really gives you perspective on what you have, and how precious that is, and how much work it takes to keep it.
Right. Yeah, I would definitely agree. So, what inspired your interest in biology and chemistry?
As a kid, I wanted to go I wanted to be a neurosurgeon. My entire intent was, I always knew that I was somehow intellectually special. And I always said that if you're more talented than the people, then you should go for whatever the hardest job is, because you can do it better than everybody else and make a real difference. That was my goal. And the issue became, I'm in college, love biology, love chemistry, love physics. I started studying quantum mechanics at 8. So I just love science. It was always a thing. Hell, I didn't even know there was a problem with studying quantum mechanics at 8 until Men in Black, where he shot the little girl for studying quantum mechanics at 8.
Yeah.
That was the only time I figured I ever had a problem. I was like, just doing my thing, I was just doing my thing.
Yeah.
And so I was going to go do medical school, and I honestly got burnt out of school. I can't even see the inside of a classroom anymore and not just feel physically ill. I love learning. I mean, I've never stopped. I've always increased. I study at least 2 to 3 hours every day, some new subjects, trying to learn something new every day. But I can never go into a classroom again. Maybe if I go teach it or something, but I can't go in there and learn. It just it's messed with me now.
Yeah, I mean, you do something for so long, you a lot of times you get tired of it or burnt out. You know what I mean? So like getting up. Oh, excuse me. Like getting up and going to work every day. I mean, I know I'm burnt out on it. I'm like, man, why do I have to have a job, man? I just need to run my business full time and be all right. I can be on my own time. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of things in life you can get burnt out on pretty quickly. So can you talk about any insight or anything that you learned whenever you moved to Virginia Beach, as far as maybe like the Navy?
Yeah, I kind of basically, I grew up in an Army family myself. My grandfather and his brother were both Army, both retired 29, 30 years, long term. My best friend from Birmingham that I met in college, he went up there to go join the Navy. That was where he was stationed, and he was getting out after 10. That was his plan. And I was living with a woman, and I was going to move on the coast. I wanted to go live on the ocean, so, and our lease was about to be up, and her parents and family all was from California. We go live in LA with them. But me and her broke up, and I hit my boy up, and I was like, why don't I come live up there with you? You live at Virginia Beach. He's like, yeah, it's perfect. Because then I can just, instead of you living at this house, because my friend's about to sell it, you come up here. He's already said, if I talk to him, I'm sure you can crash. They gave me my own room up there. And in 6 months, he sold the house. Me and him moved to the ocean front, so we could live on the beach for the next few years. On the way up there, I actually had the weirdest thing happen. I had my car fixed because I had a blown radiator, but there was a radiator hose that was blown and we didn't know it. And because I was driving up there, about halfway up there, I blow my engine. So I'm trying to move everything I own with me 14, 15 hours away, and I literally stopped 9 hours away. I have to text my best friend and have him rent a car and come get me.
Golly.
Horrible luck.
Yeah, definitely. Man, I bet you was like, man, is this a sign that I don't need to go?
Oh, no, I had already determined. I'm like, there was nothing going to stop me from what I was going to do. I met some great people up there. That's where I finally got to coach football up there. I enjoyed that. I got to I got to manage Avis up there. That was met with them. That was the first time somebody actually giving me a spot up, because here I could never get moved up for some reason in regular jobs. Because as I said, I didn't go into my professions because I never got that far in school, so I was having to take regular jobs. And I was really looking for a place to fit in. So up there, I got to live the way I wanted to, on the ocean at least. I did a lot of security work there, a lot of bartending work up there, to go around the facts that I was working for Avis and coaching football. So I kept myself busy. And if I didn't, there was a little GTA, 5 on the table for everybody.
Yeah.
I had to get mine in.
Yeah.
So yeah, I learned, I think, a lot about what really mattered. I got a chance to kind of see the world in a different place. I was told some things down here that I had to see for myself. Like, and they sounded backwards. Like, I had a friend of mine. He was a black man that went to Auburn, smart guy, and he said, "What you're going to find out is surprising. Living in Virginia is it's more racist than you are in Huntsville, Alabama." And I said, "Excuse me?" He said, "Watch." He said, "You're going to find out. There's little things you're going to notice. You're going to be like, wow, nobody would have said that in the South." Because you grow up, there's so many different types of people in the South. We were talking about it earlier with a friend of mine. There's a more diverse group of people in the South. You look at the African American population in America; it's mostly in the Southeast. So there, and I'm in a larger city, so I see a lot more Black people, Mexican people, gay people than most people in the South do.
Right.
So there's not a lot of racist statements made when you see a group of people and it's all mixed. Right. But then I went to Virginia, and you did notice those things. They said things. They would say words. You're like, wow, I can't believe you said that. They were a little bit, and it surprised me because I would have thought it was backwards. You've always heard the South is more racist.
Right.
But I have experience between, I know Virginia is still technically the South, but I went to New York too, and I didn't say there was racism, but I'm saying you can notice a little difference in the feel.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things. I mean, I've never really. There's only certain states that I've really visited. I haven't ever visited Virginia, but I know somebody that's from there that actually works with me. But I guess it just depends on what part of Virginia as well. So,
it's a beautiful place, and they're great people. But as I said, there was certain statements that certain people would say. It was a little more white people would be drop in bombs. I knew a few of them that would do it, like, whoa, okay, because down south, you never hear that. And at least not where I'm at in the South. Now, I'm sure I get out to the Hazel Green, out to more, rural areas. Oh, I'm sure I hear it a lot, but I kind of stay more in the city because I've just always been a city guy.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's different with everybody lives. I mean, people just, some people get, maybe get comfortable or whatever the case may be, and but I can't, of course, I can't speak for them, but so. You dealt with a lot of things, with people around you and yourself or whatever. So how did those things, like, for example, what lesson did you learn from your experience with your friend's struggle with mental health and, eventual suicide?
What I learned was sometimes when a person takes their own life, that wasn't what killed them. They were dead way long before that. Like, I remember the day I knew that man was dead. He hadn't killed himself yet. I just knew. I had done everything I could. His dad had done everything he could. He had called me that night, and I was in my car, just come home from work. And I'm sitting in my car talking to him, and he's like, and you can hear the depression in his voice. He'd been dealing with it for 2 years. I remember when it started. It actually started partly his own fault. He got himself in a situation, had NCIS called, ended it with a court case, and had to plead and decided to plead guilty to a plea deal. It ruined his Navy reputation. It kind of ruined his job prospects. And now he had this, and I told him, don't take it, because the prosecutor said they don't have even the prosecutor said, look, we don't think you're guilty, but this is what we have to offer. And you have to, so either if you take the trial and we prove, and you can't disprove yourself, then obviously you go to jail all this time. So he took the plea deal, and it ruined a lot of him. And I don't know if he really did it or not. Wasn't in the courtroom. I don't know the evidence. I just know, what was said. I know what, that random stuff, stuff that's worth nothing to anybody. It's hearsay.
Yeah, I get you.
So, but I know how it killed him. It was killing him depression wise. And as I said, we're on the phone. I'm talking. I'm like, man, come over. I just bought my house up here. I was like, man, come up here. I got a new dog. I know he loves animals. Just a new place. Like, some of the times is if you stay in the same place, that can actually be what increases the depression. So I was hoping that if I got him a new scenery, a dog to pet and play with, maybe you might, at least give him a little something. That night when he told me no, I knew that man that was a friend of mine that I had loved dearly was not there anymore. And when I heard he put the bullet in his head, I said, no, he didn't die today. He died back then. He was just putting himself out of his misery. He was too deep to ever come out. And I learned that there are things that go too deep sometimes.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's definitely true, man. So just to switch gears just a little bit, what motivated you to run for office?
I want to change the world. Like as I said, I didn't go to schools, right? I didn't finish my school that I wanted. So what have I done? I've basically said I've been studying. I've been studying philosophy, psychology, everything I can think of, how all military history works. I've studied battles upon battles upon battles. I've looked at everything you can think of on how to run, how to talk to people, how to run for things, how to run a country, what are the ideas, what are you trying to accomplish? Basically, I just looked for all the answers. For me, I don't look at it as my idea is this or my idea is that. I'm looking, okay, here's the problem. What is a solution that fixes that problem with the most amount of pros and the least amount of cons? Mm-hmm. And I realized I had a lot of those answers. And I realized that because of the fact I grew up in an area that's so diversified, I grew up and I went to a Christian school, because my parents took me out of inner city schools because they thought if I took me away from the drugs, I wouldn't be dealing them. But now it's like, oh, you just gave me new customers. But now I'm with Christian white people, MAGA territory, Republicans. And I grew up inner city, more minorities, more differentiation, more likely Democrat. And I realized I can talk to everybody. I understand what everybody's going through. I understand what everybody's complaining about, what all their problems are, and I know how to fix all of them. So I know, when I saw Donald Trump, I'm like, if this dude, who is literally the exact opposite of me, and if anybody gets mad at me for saying this, that's on them, because he's a freaking moron, and he thinks he's the best thing that ever existed. Well, I am that smart. I am that good, and I will do my best to prove it to this world. That's what I want to do. If that bum can find a way to get there, then why can't I? I'm smarter than he is. I'll try harder than he will.
Yeah.
And I know how to get people to follow me. I went into a Republican group, the only Democrat in the room, all Republicans, all against me for the same position. The whole room was Republicans. Every single person came and talked to me before they went to the Republicans. Even the other candidates said if it comes down to Dale Strong, which was the guy they were expecting to win the Republican nomination, and me, every one of them would vote for me. I was winning over Republicans to the point that I saw them a week later, and they were running up and hugging me. I can win anybody, and I just want the chance to show the world that I have learned what to do and how to fix this world and make it right. Like, I know what to do. I'm willing to I'm willing to go there and fight, and I know how to do it. People are like, oh, what are you going to do? They're sharks. They've been businessmen. They've been scamming everybody for years. I grew up in the streets with a gun in the back of my head.
Yeah.
Kennedy said it best. It's not, most men are about the same. The difference is how savage the school. Donald Trump went to $1 billion school, Penn, and daddy bought his grades, so he never put any effort, so he's not good at business. I had to learn business or get a bullet in the back of my head and thrown in a hole in the ground, which means I had to be really freaking good at business to survive.
Yep.
So I know business, and I know how to play those dirty games just like they do. Only I'm going to do it ethically because I don't give a damn what happens to me. I just want the world to be a better place. That's all I've ever wanted, make the world a better place.
Yep. And that's a different way to put it. You probably can ask 1 million people that same question, and you'll get 1 million different answers.
Absolutely.
So let's do this. So how was your grandfather's influence and his emphasis on continuous learning? How did it help shape your approach to life and personal growth?
It's basically everything. I mean, I don't know what he was going through his mind. I know what he did to make sure he had, custody of me. I know what he did to get to where he had basically a control on my life. because, my mother, as I said, was not the best person, and he kind of knew that, and he found a way. I realized later he'd kind of kept her arms range. That's why I didn't know until I was older exactly how bad she was, because he kind of tried to shield me from that part. He was the one that put the chip on my shoulder to where I had to learn. I remember a conversation, and everything in my world goes back to that conversation. I was 5 years old. I was in his office. He had this giant complex that he had, basically. He had a little office and he had his classroom, but then he had an entire room that was just robots, circuit breakers, all these big equipment, because he taught industrial robotics and electricity at Drake State Technical College in Huntsville. He was the only person in the entire state that taught those classes. So he had to build the program. He had to write everything and get it accredited from the state. He had to pass it on the state school board. So he literally ran one department in the entire state that was his own department. Nothing could touch him. He was it. He was the boss. If you went and you did 4 years with him, you were guaranteed a job, $25, $30 an hour back then, $100,000 a year jobs now, guaranteed. Everybody that got through his class, he basically lined them up, and you're the first guy, you're getting the best job. And he would put them down line, knowing what companies needed what and how much they'd offer. He set his guys up. Well, he was a smart guy. He was a really smart guy. He'd been through 2 wars. He taught missiles in the military. He went to in the 70s. He went to a historically black college, Alabama A&M, and got his master's so he could teach college at a predominantly black school as a white man that was born in 1930 in Arkansas. So I had a guy who was already a person that didn't really, was really more of a universal type person. We're having this thing. He asked me, let's go home, because every Saturday we'd have to go. Every once in a while on a Saturday we'd have to go up there so he could do some work to catch up on the week, because he taught 7 a.m. to friggin' 10 o'clock every day, Monday through Friday. He says, time to go home. I come walking out of his other side. He has all this on one side, and the other side is just conduit and things to bend and things to play with and wires and whatnot. It's his storage area. Well, I come out of there, and he looks at me. He goes, is something wrong? I'm like, I've been thinking. He goes, what you were thinking? I was like, I don't think anybody in the world is like me. What do you mean? I've yet to meet anybody that thinks like me. Everybody just thinks so different of just the way I don't know why. He's like, what are you? I don't know. I'm a genius, I guess, or something. He goes, well, if you were a genius, you'd be 1,000 times smarter than me. I'm like, give me a second. I'm only 5. Wait 5 years. I got you. Oh, I had an ego. As a kid, I had a smart mouth and an ego, so it was coming. He's like, okay. I see what you're doing. Okay. Well, what are you going to do with it? I don't know, but I'm going to leave the world a better place than I found it. And he told me the rules then. He said, well, I'm going to tell you what's important. The only thing you got in this world is integrity. That's it. I was like, what about money? He says, can't take it with you. If you go to heaven, you can't spend it. If you go to hell, it'll burn right up. The only thing you got in this world is your integrity. So since I was 5, the only thing I've wanted to do is make the world a better place and have the most integrity, be the most ethical person that ever lived. And when you read the Bible, sadly, if you look at what the second coming of Jesus is, you're like, wow, it'd be a super smart, ethical person that has done everything he can to make the world a better place. That just wants to see, because that's what love really is. Respecting people, trying to treat people well because you respect them. And I just the world has always treated me nice because I'm 6'7", 275 pounds of evil. So everybody treats me super nice. And yet I see the same people treat other people who are smaller than them so bad. And I just want everybody to treat everybody how everybody's treated me. Because if everybody treated everybody how they respect me, I promise you there'd be a lot less of the things going on in this world that you see right now.
I mean, 6'7", 270, 6'2", whatever you said. I mean, a lot of people may be scared to treat you any kind of other way.
That's the point, though. See, that's the thing. It's the thing. That's what respect really is. The question that Machiavelli and everybody's always asked is, better be loved or hated? No, it's respected because it's both. Because the ones that love you aren't going to hurt you because they love you. But the ones that don't care or they're going to hurt you, they're bad people. They're, they some mental disorder or some reasoning. They are people that they don't love anybody. They don't even love themselves. So they want to hurt you because they want your power. Well, if they're afraid of you, they won't do that. But that's still under the umbrella of respect.
That's true. That's true. I never looked at it like that, but that is true. That is definitely true. So can you discuss like your passion for sports and your experience coaching and mentoring young athletes?
Oh, absolutely. I grew up loving football. I still love football. It's my favorite sport. Obviously, the NBA playoffs right now, I'm disappointed because I wanted Jokic to win, but I want to see Luka win. But I'm also got a friend who's a Boston fan, and I do like Boston. So I've got a lot of teams in the NBA playoffs. I'm like, man, I kind of want to see them win.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of strung there. NHL, I'm a Rangers fan, so we got a 2-1 lead right now. So yeah, I'm kind of on edge on that. I'm 49ers fan. We just lost the Super Bowl.
Oh man, dang.
Yeah, that one hurt, man. That one hurt. But I the second he got him to overtime and got the leading score, I'm like, there might be 5 quarterbacks walking the planet that could get a score in overtime in the Super Bowl. You have one of the 5 elite quarterbacks in the game because he can get the job done in the brightest situation.
Yep.
It is that he got outgunned by the best player, might be the best quarterback in history. And that comes from a guy who played quarterback and then coached defense.
Yeah.
So I know both sides of the ball. In fact, I know Shanahan's offense. I know the plays. I can run them down for you. And I know the Chiefs defense. I know how they play. I mean, on Twitter, I told you the score and I'm only like 1 point off or something. I even called how the Chiefs would win. I even said, Mahomes has the ball, last drive, we're up 3. He scores touchdown, they win. If he throws an interception, we win. That's how the game ends. And I said it'd be like 24-21. It was 23-20 or something.
Dang, yeah.
Dude, I called the New England Patriots losing the Super Bowl when they're in perfect season. I called it in week 17, the second they beat the Giants, because I said on the road and the Giants team I saw at the end, they were all smiling. They figured them out in that game. I saw it. You could see when they were about to hit another gear. The Mavericks when they beat the Lakers and then had that game against KD, I knew they were going to beat the Miami Heat then. They turned up another gear. It was a whole other team. The Pistons, the block that Tayshaun Prince got on Reggie, that team before that, watch how they play. Watch the team after that. You believe they were going to beat the Lakers if you saw.
Yeah.
I've studied this stuff and I played them all.
Yeah.
So when I was coaching, I would always use the same thing. I always figured, like, how would I want to coach me? And so I realize I'm real quick to realize that it's simple. Nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. My players know for a fact I'm going to put them above everything. They know for a fact I'm going to go to fight for them. You get on the field and go fight for me. You have to trust that I'm going to put you in the right place, and I got to trust that you'll execute. I'm going to teach you how to execute, and I'm going to make sure I'm studying that team to make sure I have you in the right places.
That's right.
I gain the trust of my players first. My players are the most important thing to me. Not my head coach, my players. I tell my head coach that. I'm like, you're second. My players are first. I came here for them. They're here for me.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. So do you have maybe any specific strategies or habits that helped you overcome adversity?
A lot of times it's the fact I don't feel stress. It's the fact that I don't feel those type of emotions. I'm kind of a genetic psychopath. So stress doesn't affect me the same way it does most people. Like big game situations, a lot of people fold under pressure. Mm-hmm. I have succeeded more times than failed. It's like you feel like Michael Jordan in the moment. Like, you're going to succeed. Like, it's weird because my brain doesn't ever do anything but just go, let's hit this shot and win it. Let's do this right now. This is our game right here. Game over. We're going to make it right here. I've called basketball games, bowling. I had to pick up a 4-10 split one time in a game of bowling to win it. And I said, you know what? I'm going to pick it up right now and make this money. I told him and then went and hit it. It's one of the most hardest splits. And I could do it just game on the line. I'll make it happen. I know that I won't feel the stress. And so I have the confidence that I'm going to get it done. I know I'm going to get it done because I know that other guy, all that stress, they're feeling it. Their head, they start twitching in this. Oh, my knees might knock a little bit. Like the physical parts, the chemicals still work on the body, but my brain's going, hit your line, we win. Throw this pass. They're in cover too. This is going to be wide open. You hit this right here, game over. I just did the job because I just knew. And I taught my players that. I'm like, if I teach you enough, you're going to know exactly where to be. If I show you enough game film and their routes, when he throws the angle, if you take that 2 steps in, you've got a free pick to the house every time. And if we teach you enough and get it set it enough that everybody understands what they're doing, when that play comes, you will see my middle linebacker strutting in the end zone with the football. They have to trust me to know that, and I have to trust them, and I have to teach them. Doing that is the same thing I did for myself. The same thing that my coaches did to me. You know, I never liked those coaches that would just scream at you. Explain why I'm wrong. What did I do wrong and why? That way we can learn from it. If you're screaming at me, I'm just like, okay, don't do that again, but I don't know why.
Right.
You know, I want to do the right play. If my step was the wrong step, then I need to know that why I'm doing it.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
I believed always, you know, give your players as much information. They need to know why. Don't just show them something. It's got to be why, and then what you train them. And this came from Brick Haley. I went to a symposium with him, and he's a great defensive line coach at LSU and then Chicago Bears. He said, everything you do in a football field that you do in practice, you better make sure that there is footage on the film of it exactly working. Otherwise, there's no reason to do it. So every time he had a defensive drill, he would show the footage in the game of where that footage works. I need this step and why to be as efficient as possible down the line, or I need to do this for this reason. And sure enough, he showed that in his symposium. We talked about it for 30 minutes before and another 30 minutes after. And I made sure I put that in my players, that anytime I showed them something, I showed them exactly. I showed them the footage of see the time for this, or you know, whatever we're working on. If we're working on hand fighting, if we're working on, you know, foot placement or footwork, you know, no matter what we're playing. Quarterback, you know, making sure you're on time.
Yep. No, I agree. So let's go with so what are your thoughts on the importance of community involvement and giving back?
Oh, I'm all for it. You know, it's your community. It's your family. They may not be related to you, but your neighbors are your family. They're in this. If a tornado comes right down the street right now, it's probably not just hitting my house, you know?
Right.
Those people are going to be in the same boat I am. You know, sometimes I know them, and I admit sometimes I don't. But when you're doing community work, that's what you're doing. You're building your community. It's like not everybody does it, but I think it's a positive thing to be a leader and to be in community and working. You know, I really wish right now I had a little less of a schedule because I was doing more of it a few months back when I was able to than I am now. And I like helping. You know, it's nice to know that you see somebody's day a little brighter that, you know, might not have had, or, you know, and there's a lot of ways to do it. There's a lot of organizations that are looking for help, looking for volunteers, looking for people just to come and lend the ear. You know, there's so many ways you can help people nowadays. And I always think it's good because, you know, you build camaraderie. Hell, there's an idea I have because, you know, we talk about gun safety in this country, where I want the police to be a part of this. You know, with gun safety, it'd be nice to have a system where the police had to give everybody gun training. What would that mean? That means everybody that owns a pistol legally would actually know the police officers, and they would actually be able to talk about things. Think about it like this. We have these, you know, we have these mass shooting situations, which are mental health issues, and the fact we have too many guns that are available. Reality, though, there's some things we can do that'll actually stop a lot of it that don't even involve guns, but all of it needs to be examined. Guns, not guns, all of it needs to be examined because this should not be an issue. We're the only country in the world that has it.
Yeah.
But that being said, I worked at the airport, and we would have gun safety training out there. Well, the police would talk about what gun safety training is and what they would do. And one of the things that came up in one of the groups I was in was, what if there's a mass shooter at the airport? Some of us are gun carriers, are legal gun carriers. And the police don't actually know what to do with that. The situation doesn't normally come up. The normal civilian doesn't know what to do in those situations. But if you had everybody that was in gun populace that had, you know, legally obtained their weapons, had done everything right, and had been trained with the police, because what's the use of owning a gun if you never fired one, you don't know how to hit the broadside of a board, and you're dangerous to everybody but the person you're shooting at. You know, it ain't just pull the trigger. It takes practice. It takes work. Right. You know, it takes knowing how to clean your gun, maintain it. So for, you know, as I said, if you had a police part of this, you would have that community outreach, because I think a lot of times, a lot of the issues we have in this country is because the police and the people don't trust each other. But if you have this natural communication and this collaboration that has to happen, where they have to interact, and it's the people that have the guns, the people that are more likely to be afraid of each other, because the people who don't have guns, they shouldn't be, you know, why should the police be afraid of them, right? So you would know all the gun owners. You would at least have a rapport with them and an understanding of each other. Maybe that would bring some togetherness, would be more community outreach, and you would have more respect for the police, and police having more respect for common citizens. and us having a better community.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I agree. It's one of the things that I don't know if anybody has ever brought it up. I know I've never heard it before until you said it. Um, so I'm gonna assume that no one has ever really brought that up. If they did, maybe it just got shot down so fast. You know what I mean?
I've never heard of it until I was thinking about it one day, and I was like, I'm a gun owner. I admit it. I have my pistol. I have my permit. As I said, I bought a house back in my old neighborhood, and I know it still has a bad reputation, and I know people still do things. So I understand why I have a gun, but at the same point, I also have a job as security sometimes where even I need a gun there because they are dangerous jobs.
Right. Yeah.
So I am a person that's a gun owner. I am an American gun guy. And yet even I'm like some of the things these people who are or pro Second Amendment one, I'm thinking that's crazy. That's not ethical. That's not honorable. You're making a worse situation, or you're not fixing this problem. You don't care enough about people. You don't care enough about money. Because even if you're a businessman, like, well, I'm making money off this. You do realize every time somebody dies, you as a country lose money economically. That's a person whose money is lost to society. So you're actually economically hurting yourself just by greasing the wheels of a few people like the NRA and gun companies, feeding politicians to keep them to keep these things legal, where they can keep doing these bad crimes and hurting all these families.
Yep.
You can save a lot of money. If you're a capitalist, you should be like, it's a bad idea. If you have any kind of intelligence, you should be like, it's a bad idea. Nobody should ever think shooting up schools is a good idea.
No, not at all. Not at all. So, how has your experience as a non-traditional candidate and entrepreneur shaped your perspective on leadership?
Well, I think I always learned something that I think some people in business don't learn. Some people are like me. They're really greedy in business.
Mm-hmm.
And I always thought, I remember the street life. If I get some, my boys better get some too.
Right.
You eat your people that help you eat. And so anytime I run a business, I usually go for fairer wages because I want to make sure that, I'm trying to eat on this business, but you working for me, if I can't afford to feed you too, then I shouldn't have this business. I shouldn't have you as an employee if I can't pay you enough to live. Like, it's that simple. I don't get, I could see small businesses maybe having problems if we had a living wage, but that should be, with any big corporation, that should be the standard, is a living wage, because you're making it easier on society on itself. If more of the working class had money, they, rich people don't buy things. They have all the things they need. Poor people buy things. Middle class people buy things, like there's a lot of things I love to fix in my house. I don't make enough money right now, but if we were making living wages, which means, most of society's wages would go up, not just the lowest. Like, imagine you're making $10 an hour and now minimum wage is 15. Your company's going to go to 15. No, they're going to have to go to 17 or 18. Otherwise, you'll go to McDonald's, make the same pay.
Yep.
They want to make sure that you're not competition somewhere else because they know they trained you for all these years.
Yep.
So they're going to have to go a little higher. People who negotiate, well, everybody went higher. My job was 60 grand last year. Well, now there's a guy making 60 grand who doesn't do this job. I should be making 80.
Right.
He'll get it. The negotiations goes up. So everybody gets a little more money. That would mean all those plumbers that, God knows how many people need to replace their pipes. All those people that have house issues, need carpenters, need electricians. Those people haven't been fixing their houses. We could, that would be a huge amount of boost the economy right there if you just took care of the people just for a little bit.
Yep. I definitely agree with that. So, what advice would you give someone facing financial difficulties or struggling to find their path in life?
For with struggling your path, that's going to be, what do you want in your life? What do you want? You have to figure out what you want in your life, and you have to figure out what's important to you. I always say have a pecking order in life. Like, what do you want? And whatever you want has to have a place. If you're a Christian, you want God first, God has to be first. If you're a businessman and you want to make a lot of money, the money would have to be first. And then you'd have to have a pecking order. What's second? What's third? And you don't give up second. You don't give up first for second or second for third. Because you have to have a plan, and you're kind of, as I said, you don't have to be, it doesn't have to be completely tight on the plan, on the pecking order. Mm-hmm. But the reality of the pecking order is it's start of the plan. If you want to get somewhere, you've got to have a plan and the effort to get there. You've got to put in the work to get there.
Right.
If you have a plan, but you don't put in hard work, it ain't going to happen. If you have hard work, but you don't have a plan, you don't have a direction, you're just going to be going everywhere. You won't get there.
Mm-hmm.
And then the first part was because that was about, going through hard times.
Yeah, and the other part was, what advice would you give someone facing financial difficulties?
Keep your head up. It's going to be difficult. Jobs are just not hiring. I mean, I live in a field right now. I mean, I live in Huntsville. People talk about, they rate it as a great state, great place to live. It's been making top 10 lists for the last 2 or 3 years as one of the best cities to live in. And I see places not hiring. I see people putting in 200-300 applications. So it's just going to get harder. Right now, you just keep your head down and try to find every dollar you can. Try to be, just try to find you a job. If you have to, find a way to live with somebody if you can. But you're going to have to just look. You have to look for survival first. And that's one of the difficulties with the economy the way it is. The big numbers are good. But since the companies haven't been paying and the jobs aren't as available as everybody says they are, it's kind of become an issue economically to a lot of people.
Yep. No, I would definitely agree. So 2 more questions for you. How do you maintain a positive mindset and resilience in the face of the setbacks that you had and obstacles you've had in life?
I just refocus. It's simple. My plan, it didn't work that time. Something happened, something came, but there's you just have to realign. My first thing is always get another job first. Whenever something happens like that, if I've lost a job or something's happened or my mother having issues and we have to move back with her or whatever, first thing you do, find an economic place. You gotta have money going in your pocket. Then you can start building your plans. And with this one, the plan is until I go, I just want to get to Congress. I just want one chance to show everybody what I can do. Because once I show them, I'll be president. I know for a fact I will do the job that I say I'm going to do. And I will play the people that I have to play. I will play this game. I hate politics, but I love problem solving. And that's all I want to do.
Yep.
So since I know what I want, everything is about that plan. And lately, economics have been tough. I'll be admitted. If you're going to be a candidate, money's going to come. Money's going to be expensive. Money's going to run out your pocket. It economically hurt me. It just is what it is. It's not cheap. It's a business first. So that's what all this is. That's why I want to do more podcasts. That's why I'm trying to work on more social media. I want to build the presence where I can get and be maybe a guest on CNN or something. Because, I can, this is the same thing up there. This is the same thing on MSNBC, the same thing on ABC. This is it.
Yeah.
And I can do this all day and I'm good at it. And I just need to get myself out there.
Yep.
And
for cheaper, probably.
Yeah. And for people who are struggling economically, for people that want to be something, the people that, you got to do the same thing. As I said, I got a plan. This is the hard work. Showing people what I can do, showing the world who I am. And that's going to be the same thing everybody else. You could be the greatest boxer in the world, but if you're not fighting for the world heavyweight championship, nobody knows who you are.
Yep.
You got to be great and you got to have the platform to do it, to show it.
Yep.
But you got to put in that work to make yourself great.
Yep. I agree. And actually, with that question, you actually answered my my other question as well, because the other question was going to be, what are your long-term goals, our aspirations, whether that's personally or professionally. And you kind of went into that a little bit, talking about, wanting to run back for Congress again and things like that. So,
yeah, it's kind of a 10-year plan. If now, depending on what happens with this election and what's going to happen based on the dynamics of this country after this election with Trump, the arrests, all that, what happens, depending on who wins, it's going to change the political environment of this entire country. And, I'm still pushing. I'm still be working. I'm still trying to do podcasts for anybody that'll allow me. I'm doing everything I can because I know we're at the right time. Podcasting and YouTube and things like that are going to be building more people than traditional media have been. This is just the way it's going to go now. And it's going to be more of a fight with a lot more people than it ever was. Yep. But I know that everybody I've ever talked to, I can win one-on-one on a vote. because I know for a fact I'm telling the truth, and I know for a fact that what I can want done, I will get done, and I know how to do it. Yeah. So I just want everybody to see me and follow me. Go to my Twitter at the Charlie Truth. I just want everybody to see what I do, and I'll admit it, I'm a cold ass piece. Because there are some people that be cracking jokes on me. Don't do that. Look. I was born in the streets, and I'm a dozen. I learned the dirty dozens from freaking In Living Color. I'm a shit talker, straight up. Yeah. So people try to throw comments at me. Hey, if you disagree with my viewpoint, that's fine. But people who personally attack me, I make a mockery out of them, because more you don't go against a guy that can talk smack like me.
Yeah.
I'm funny. I'm gonna crack jokes. It's gonna be funny, and it's gonna be mean, and I'm gonna be laughing, and I'm gonna be posting it on Reddit for people for 10,000 likes.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, man. I definitely appreciate you coming on the show. Taking your time out to come on here and speak on the different mental health aspects that you dealt with in life, and things that's been going on around you, as well as talk about your push towards being the next Congress member. So it's definitely great having a conversation with you, and of course I wish you all the best. And so now in a couple of years I can say I had an interview with the president. You know what I mean? So
I know if I get to the one step, if I win that first election, I'll never lose another one.
That's the kind of confidence I like right there. That's the confidence I like. Everybody that's watching, thank you all for tuning in. You guys just watched another episode of All in All with Alex, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.